because I would like to start now with just a quick reflection for yourselves about how you think about or imagine a salesperson. If you imagine a salesperson in your mind, and just choose the first 3 words that come into your mind, and write them down on your paper. So, you don't need to share the words that you wrote down, but this is very often a good starting point to understand your thinking about sales. Because when I do these exercises with salespeople in many different countries, my experience is that some people will write things like pushy, or arrogant, or they don't listen. All of the negative, stereotypical words that we sometimes associate with sales. Other people will write down things like helpful, competent, someone who can guide me. And for me, this is really the starting point in sales. This is a quote by Henry Ford, the man who started Ford Cars. He says, if you think you can do a thing, or you think you can't do a thing, you're right. And this is true in many different areas of our life, but in sales, we see it even stronger. If we see sales as something that is pushy and something that is arrogant, then we will never be very good at it, because nobody likes to be that person. If we see sales as something that is helpful, something where we guide other people, help them to make a decision that is right for them, then we can become very good at sales. So for me, this is really the starting point of any sales training and any sales development. So my next question to you is, what is selling to you? If somebody asked you, what does it mean to sell, what would you say? Just take a moment and write that down on your piece of paper. Is there anyone who would like to share what their definition of sales is that you wrote down? Yeah, Manuele?
I wrote that, first of all, for me, you are solving a problem for the customer, but not necessarily a problem, but you are giving him a chance to satisfy a temporary need or necessity.
Anyone else? No? Yeah. You can say it in Italian.
Yes, satisfy your needs.
Everyone has their own definition. When I think of sales, I think about it as helping other people buy, because it's essentially not about me, it's about my customer, and it's about, for me, guiding them in the process of buying what is right for them. As a salesperson, I don't know what's right, so I need to use my questions and my knowledge of the product to help them in that process. That is why I prefer to think of sales training as people training. Because in order to be good at sales, we need to be good at people. And that's why my focus in sales training is always understanding people, understanding how they function, and how I can help them get to the best decision for them. This also means that even though the focus for today is sales training, the things that we speak about today can just as well be used for team training or team building or working with other people. It can even give a better understanding sometimes of a friend who does something crazy, or the husband or the wife or the son or daughter that maybe sometimes we can't understand. one of the, like I just said, questions is a central part of selling. And one of the best advices I ever got in sales was this. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should use them in proportion. So whenever that proportion is out of balance, then we know that we should be doing a little bit better at asking the questions instead of speaking about the solutions. Many sales trainings are based on the idea that one size fits all. It's not true with the clothes that we wear, and it's not true with how we approach sales. I am different to you, and to you, and to you, and the sales approach that works on me doesn't maybe work so good on you, maybe doesn't work so good on you. So as salespeople, I see one of our first roles to identify the type of person we are dealing with, and then to have the skills to know how to adapt our own communication style so that the person we speak to and communicate to understands exactly what it is we want to say. Because communication is about the receiver. It's not about what we say, it's about how the other person receives it. If it was only about what we said, then sales could be done by robots. But it can't. Because robots can't read our body language. Well, not yet anyway. There are a lot of things that come down to the human understanding of another person. So we will start by looking at the 4 customer types. And I split them into these 4 groups on 2 axes here. On the left-hand side, we have someone who is very focused on the task. They have a problem they want to solve, or they have a job they want to do, and this is their focus, whether it's doing work or buying something. On the other end of the spectrum, over here, we have people who are people-focused and more warm. They are more interested in who they buy from than what they are buying. On the vertical axis, we have at the top people who are more outgoing and loud. These people are usually quite easy to spot because they are outgoing and loud. And at the bottom, we have people who are more quiet and more reserved. This is based on a classification system called a DISC. And what I have done with this to turn it into a sales training is that I've tried to take away all of the technical language, the psychological language, and only speak about it as birds. So, let us start with the eagle. When we think of an eagle, we think of, leadership, someone who is alone, yeah? This is someone who is more outgoing and someone who is very task-oriented. They don't care so much about whether the people they are speaking to are friendly and warm and ask them all the right questions. They are more focused on, okay, I have this problem, I need to solve it, can you help me? Then over here we have a parrot dancing into the stage. This is the type of person that we often imagine when we think of the classic door-to-door salesperson. Someone who is flamboyant, someone who will tell stories, someone who likes to talk, yeah? Then down here in the corner, we have someone more peaceful. We have the dove. These are people who are still very people-oriented. They care more about the human side than they care about just solving the problem. but they're more reserved and they're more quiet. This type is also the type that doesn't like change very much. And so this type will be the ones that when they come to us to rent storage, they are the ones who will probably be the most stressed out of all of these four. Because when people need storage, they are experiencing some kind of change. And all the other three are better at dealing with change and feel more comfortable with change than this one down here. So if we are dealing with this one, it will be even more important to reassure them that we can take some of the stress away from them. And then down in the corner, we have the analytical owl. This is the typical lawyer or accountant, someone who likes the detail, someone who wants to make sure that every clause in the contract is exactly how they expect it to be before they sign. They will maybe want to compare the clauses of the contract from you with any other competitor you have to make sure they understand all the differences, right? So these are the people who will probably ask very many questions. And I think we all can think about people we have sold to where we have got another phone call or another email with another question where we think, oh, come on. These are the analytical owl people. They don't like the sense of risk. And as human beings, none of us really like the feeling of risk. The way they deal with risk is through detail. So these customers will need and want a lot of detail from us. And the way we make them feel safe in the buying situation is by giving them all the detail that they want. So the powerful eagle, they are people who are direct. They are people who are ambitious. These are very often the people who end up at the top or close to the top in companies. They are also often very competitive. They want to be the first one to finish. And as a salesperson, so not as a customer, but as a salesperson, they tell. Somebody comes in and says, oh, I need storage. Okay, I have the solution for you. Boom, 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 boom. Sign here. That's the selling style of the eagle. The parrot is quite different. The parrot is friendly and sociable. The parrot gets enthusiastic very easily. They will use their arms more. They will use more extreme language. With a parrot, things are not good. They are fantastic. Yeah? This is the way they describe things. As a salesperson, the parrot is the one who does the classic selling, like I described earlier. They will want to talk, 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 until you sign. Then we have the peaceful dove. They are more calm, they are more steady, they are patient, and they are very, very loyal. So once you get their trust, then they will likely stay with you. One of the things that I often see in companies when they recruit salespeople is that they will go for the parrots. They will think, well, people who are good at talking, they will be better at selling. The thing is that a parrot is very externally referenced. A parrot needs the world around them to tell them how great they are. And in sales, you get a lot of no. So in my experience, people who are very high on the parrot spectrum, if that is even a word, these guys often go into a sales job very enthusiastic, and then after 6 months, they kind of go, huh, because they don't get the constant confirmation of how great they are. People say no. These guys are not as obvious as the parrot. They are more reserved, they are a little bit more quiet, they are a little bit slower in their approach, but they are still very people-oriented. So they have a natural understanding and interest in other people. But these guys, they are much more interested or referenced inside themselves. If they feel they are doing a good job, then that is enough for them. So these are usually the salespeople who are the best in the long run, because they have the people understanding and the people interest, but it is okay for them to get no. It doesn't make them question themselves in the same way. So as a salesperson, the dove is the one that listens. They ask a few questions and then they listen. And in the beginning of a conversation, they will be more quiet, and then as the conversation continues, they will become more active. And then we have the perfectionist. We already spoke about their detailed nature. They are precise, they want it to be exact. Because they notice all the details in their environment, it also makes them a little bit more cautious. Because if we're aware of everything that can go wrong in the insurance contract, it can plant seeds of disasters in our minds. So this is the type that will often need reassurance that things are safe, that you haven't had many accidents or disasters in your site. Because they are so detailed, they also have very high standards, because they will notice if a detail is not how it should be. As salespeople, these guys question. That's the natural starting point if you are very detail-oriented. So they ask question after question after question. So, yeah, Emanuele?
Just one question.
Yeah.
I'm curious. By your experience, if there is one, what is the worst profile or figure to have to do with, to work with?
You know, this is a really good question. And in my experience, it is not about which type they are, but it is about understanding yourself and being flexible in your approach. Because we all have different, all of us have an eagle, a parrot, a dove, and an owl inside ourselves. In different situations, different birds grow bigger and other birds get smaller. So by being aware of how we function, understanding how other people function, and being flexible in our approach with others, I think that is the key, more than which type people are. But as a general, let me see where we have it. As a general rule, we can see here, if we look at the diagonals, these are the types that naturally will have a harder time to adapt to each other. An eagle who cares about tasks and is loud is very different than a people-focused, quiet dove. So these two, if they work together or if they are selling and buying from each other, they will need to stretch themselves much further than if these two are working together or if these two. And the same is the other way with the parrot and the owl. So we go into an elevator, and there are 4 people in the elevator. How will the different people react? Well, the eagle will walk straight in. He will push the button he wants to go to, and he will probably not only push the button one time, he will push it many times. The parrot will see a ride in an elevator as a fantastic chance to chat to somebody and to get to know somebody. And when they get to the floor where it's time for them to step out of the elevator, they are the ones who are going to be holding their hand on the door just to finish the conversation. The dove will notice that there is a button that you can open the doors, and if they see somebody coming towards the elevator who wants to get on, they will actually push the button. These two maybe won't, because this one will be very focused on getting to where they need to go, and this one will be too busy talking to notice that someone needs help. And then we have the owl, who will look at the sign about how heavy the elevator is allowed to be, how many people can be in it, and will mentally calculate how many people are in the elevator and are we getting close to the limit. If we are getting close to the limit, maybe they will step outside the elevator and take the next one instead. These are, of course, exaggerated examples, but I exaggerate it so that you can understand the differences. And then when we work with each other and we contact our customers, then we will have an easier time to notice the more subtle differences between people.